Hey, do you like stories about selfish, arrogant, toxic men? Well, boy, we've got the story for you. Our main character is named Felix, and he lives in the Arctic with his adorable dog, Laika. Felix is kind at heart, and for the most part, he tries to cover his kindness with his strength and pride, as he doesn't want to be seen as weak. His kind heart can still be seen despite his selfish and arrogant actions, which is what still allows the audience to connect with Felix. Throughout the story, Felix grapples with his sense of self, torn between maintaining the tough reputation that he's built for himself or sacrificing appearances and his own pride to care for his closest companion. At the beginning of the story, we see how Felix is easily influenced by his friends, desperate to prove his worth, even when it means leaving his house without knowing if Laika is safe. Even then, his love for Laika is clear, but ultimately his competitiveness and the peer pressure to prove himself takes over, and he leaves. He is kind-hearted, but his pride often gets the best of him. His deep-seated insecurity constantly causes him to worry about how others view him, and he is always wanting to prove himself to his friends and, in turn, himself. This pressure culminates after he is presented with the dilemma of either going on the hiking trip or staying home and caring for Laika when she is injured. Now he is forced to deal with his own conflicting feelings. By the end of the story, through the decision to stay, Felix is shown to have learnt to put his pride aside and that he doesn't have to prove his strength and care for his loved one instead. He realizes that it doesn't matter what others think of him, as he chooses what's right for him and his companion who he loves. Fresh from a long day at work, Felix is ready to kick back and relax with his beloved pooch, Laika. But wait, where is she? Usually she's there at the door, tail wagging and waiting for our human to come home. Felix searches high and low, but she's nowhere to be found. Frustrated, but still hoping she'll show up, he pours some kibble into her bowl. Enter Lucas, Felix's best mate and other partner in crime. He's waiting outside, but of course, Lucas being Lucas, he can't just let Felix go without a bit of friendly competition. A race to the pub, anyone? Felix, tempted by the challenge, puts his search for Laika on hold and takes off with his mate. At the pub, Felix tries to enjoy the company of his friends, but the exhaustion of the day ahead catches up to him quickly and he decides to go home early. It's not just any hike they're embarking on after all, it's going to be a real challenge, and he needs his rest. As Felix stumbles through his front door, he sees the forgotten Laika sitting injured and whimpering. Felix's heart sinks as he berates himself for leaving her earlier. He now has a responsibility to care for his dog, but he also had a goal to achieve, the challenging hike with his friends and to uphold his reputation. As Felix tosses and turns throughout the night, he grapples with his decision. Should he choose his pride or his loyalty to Laika? Just as he drifts off into a restless slumber, he finds himself in a playground, but something is different. In a montage of life moments, Felix is shown to be bullied by some kids at his school for being weak, the reason behind his desire to prove himself as a strong adult. It is then recognized that Laika was given to him as a present in response to this. He finds himself in his childhood front yard. In his hands, Felix finds Laika's chew toy, but this time it looks exactly like it did on the day he first gave it to her. Suddenly, Laika appears as a puppy, wagging her tail in excitement. Felix can't resist her puppy eyes, so he throws the chew toy and plays with her for a few blissful moments. But the scene is shattered by an ominous feeling. A storm clouds the sky and Lucas's friends appear. Their unnerving gaze seems to bore into Felix's soul as they chant for him to join them. As they get closer, Felix feels the grass below him turn into a treadmill, dragging him towards them. Meanwhile, Laika whimpers and begins to be dragged away and fade into a black mist. With a heavy heart, Felix turns to his beloved dog and screams, "Laika, no." Felix now stands at a crossroad of his morals. Should he tend to his loyal companion or march ahead on the challenging hike, proving his willpower to his friends? The weight of leaving his beloved dog behind gnaws at him, churning his conscience. Whilst he packs his bags, he calls Lucas, who is on his way. As he mentions his dilemmas to his friends, he is met with a barrage of disapproving voices. Amid the commotion, a callous remark echoes from the back seat, "Come on, Felix, don't be such a drag." Seized by a rash impulse, Felix decides to delegate his responsibility to an aging neighbour and take on his friend's frivolous challenge. As Felix leaves his furry friend behind with his elderly neighbour, he can't help but notice the decrepit fence that barely holds itself up. As he opens his boot, he spots the mangled remains of his dog's favourite toy. Unable to shake off his guilt, Felix shuts the boot without placing his bag in. With a cut to black, the audience hears Felix call over for Laika, settling his indecisiveness and staying to take care of Laika. He has put aside his pride to do what's right. Overall, the theme of the story is embracing vulnerability and authenticity. This theme highlights Felix's personal growth as he eventually chooses to set aside his pride, and it is expressed through his decision to stay and take care of Laika despite his friend's judgments. In doing so, Felix rejects his egotistical persona and embraces the kind-hearted nature that resided in him all along.